Hello, I'm Scott and welcome to the 8th and final episode of our barrel modelling tutorial series in Maya. So now we've got to the point where we can't really tell which is the reference and which is the new one. So we can actually just delete out our reference model now. We don't need that in the scene anymore. And what we've done to create this is we started with a cylinder, we added edge loops around the object and an edge cap on the top. We extruded in the top and the bottom, we extruded in the sides, we beveled and smooth shaded the object, we added a second cylinder for our little nozzle here, we combined that and then remodeled the geometry on the top to merge the two objects. We then beveled out the nozzle here. We UV mapped the object by running a cylindrical operation around the center, using a planar map on the top and bottom, planar and the cylindrical for the nozzle, and then using Unitize and the stitch tool to rebuild the UVs on our lips by hand, and then we stitched all our shells down as much as we could to cut our UV count down, or UV shell count down, sorry. We're now at the point where we just need to go through the last few things before we export the model. So for that, the first thing we want to do is fix the pivot again. So we're going to hit D, and again, like we did before, we're just going to hold V, select only the Y axis, and we're just going to, still holding V, drag this to the bottom point on the model. So one of these vertexes on the bottom lip. And then we're just going to let go of V and let go of click. My Maya's freezing, sorry. If we move our camera, we tap D again, we can see that that is pivoted right to the base of the model, which is what we want. Next, we want to just make sure the model is facing positively on the X direction. So it's good to model all your things facing the same way, so that if it gets handed to a level designer or a level builder, they don't have to rotate objects all the time and move everything around. They know exactly what way the model is going to face on import. So if we say the nozzle is the front of our barrel, we know that it's facing down the X direction because the red arrow here is the X. We can also check it in this tiny little bottom left here, this little XYZ. So the X is pointing to the left of the screen, as is the nozzle, so we know it's facing positively on the X direction. The next thing we want to do is we want to bring in the outliner. So we go to Windows and we come down to Outliner here, and we just click on this. Now this is still called P cylinder 3, we don't want that. We want to give it a proper naming convention. So we double click that and we're going to call it SM for static mesh underscore, because we never use spaces, and we're going to call it barrel and 01. So it's a mesh that doesn't move, it's a barrel, and it's the first barrel in case we made multiple. We could make dented ones, say, or one with an open top or no nozzle. So this is the first barrel, and we can just click off that. Next, we want to freeze the transformations on the object. So anything in the attribute editor here, if we click this and we click on SM barrel 01, now these are all 0, 0, 0, 0 and 1, 1, 1. That's good, but we're just going to make sure that there's nothing else happening in the background that we don't know about. So if we click modify here at the top left and we click freeze transformations. Now what that would do is, if we set X to 1, say, we've moved it 1 off the center. This is a transform's been applied in here. When we freeze that, it makes this the new 0, 0 value. So I'm just going to -1 this to bring it back and freeze it again. The reason we want all of these to be set to 0 is because these are calculations that are carried with the object. So if we carry those calculations into the game engine, every time we bring this object in, that calculation is reapplied to the object and it takes up memory and processing power. So we don't want that. We want to just have these be all at 0. So if we wanted to scale the barrel up and be saying I want this 3 times longer on the X direction, then we would still freeze that back to make this the new 1 rather than 3. But we've done that, they're all frozen. So next we want to delete the history off of our object. So we've lost our channel box editor here when we came back into the standard modeling window. So we want to go Windows, General Editors, and Channel Box Layer Editor. If we click that, it's going to pop up outside. On my screen it's appeared on my second one. So I'm just going to drag it in, and we can just drag it over here and it'll snap into place. So I'm just going to move it back to where it used to be. Now, this big list of functions is every single thing we've done to the object. It's our history. We don't want any of that. That can cause a lot of bother if we export the model with all of that attached. So we're going to click Edit and Delete History, and it's going to get rid of all of that off of the model. So this is now, all the model is what is here. It doesn't carry any of that previous forms with it. Next, we're going to need to get our UV map exported. So we're going to go to UV up at the top menu, and we're going to click UV Editor, and it's popped up outside for me. So I'm just going to drag this back in. So this is just our UV workspace again, but in its own tab. I need to click, we want to click Image and then UV Snapshot, but before we do that, we want to select all the UV shells. So if we hold right click and go over UV shell, drag a box so that these are orange, and we want to just quickly double check a couple things. So we want to make sure that nothing is back to front, so we're going to check that these are both blue, and we want to check that there's not anything majorly distorted. So we're just going to check that these are all white or a very light blue. So this shows us the distortion, this shows us faces back to front. We'll just click off that again. So now that the UVs are looking fine, we just want to take our snapshot. So make sure these are selected. We go to Image, UV Snapshot. So when we click this, we just want to make sure that we set up where in the computer we want to save it. So we click Browse, and we go and save it to wherever we want. So I'm just going to set it into my UV folder, and I'm going to call this UV underscore barrel. And I'm just going to click Save on that. We want the size X and Y to both be 2048, and the edge color, whatever color you would like. After that, we need to change this image format underneath the file name from a Maya IFF to a PNG. And now we want to hit Apply and Close, and that's what's going to save our UV map. So I'm just going to bring mine back in. So we want our location, we want a PNG, we want both at 2048, and then we want whatever color we need. We don't want to touch anything on the bottom, so we're going to hit Apply and Close, and then we can just close this UV editor here. That's saved that map now into its own PNG file in the location you've placed it. So now that we've done that, we want to go back into object mode, and the final thing we want to do is export this as an FBX. So we're going to go to File, we're going to do Export Selection. We don't want to do Export All. If we do Export All, it's going to pull these 4 camera objects, the FBX, and 2 lighting sets. So we want to just make sure that in the outliner here, we have the barrel selected, and then we want File, Export Selection. And then mine just popped up outside again, but we want to just give this its own name. So we're going to call it SM underscore barrel underscore 01. Now, if this was going in a game where there was multiple locations and this barrel only applies to a certain location, so maybe you have metal barrels in a garage and wooden barrels in a dockyard area, we could call this SM underscore garage underscore barrel. The whole naming convention process is just to try and make it easier for whoever takes this model off you next and has to work on it further. So the better you name it, the better it is for other people to find it and work with it and so on. So if we do that and bring it up like so, we just want to make sure this is set to FBX export or to OBJ export, and then we click Export Selection, and that has saved this off now as its own FBX. So just to show that, we'll hit W on it, we'll move it over here out of the way, we'll actually just delete it, and we'll do File, and we'll go to Import, and we'll just bring over the importer window here. Now we called it SM underscore garage underscore barrel underscore 01, and it's an FBX, and we can import that, and there it is again. Perfect. So Now that we've done that, we're all done here, and I hope you enjoyed the series, and thank you for watching.